When Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse first premiered, many animation fans believed that Sony couldn't possibly follow it up with another feature as great and creative as that one. But they somehow managed to do it with The Mitchells vs. the Machines, a movie filled with fun animation, hilarious jokes, a ton of heart, and plenty of lovable characters. Speaking of which, let's talk about those characters, shall we? I'm Caleb with Wicked Binge, and this is Mitchells vs. the Machines characters, Good to Evil. Earning our gold medal of good is the head of the Mitchell family, Rick Mitchell. Though a bit eccentric and bumbling, there's a lot to like about Rick. Instead of making him to be a sort of anti-tech villain, Rick shows throughout the film that while he may like being in his tech-free comfort zone, he's willing to be flexible and compromise for the sake of his family, especially his daughter. This is best demonstrated when we learn that he sold his dream cabin in order to allow his daughter to grow up in a more social environment, showing just how much he's willing to sacrifice for his family.
Mitchells have always been weird, and that's what makes us great.
He does break Katie's laptop in the start of the film, but this is an accident that he immediately feels guilty about. Rick is almost always the first to reach out when it comes to fixing his and Katie's relationship, and once he fully realizes how important her filmmaking is to her and how much she wants her father's support and understanding, Rick not only embraces Katie's filmmaking passions, but he also faces his own tech-related fears in order to save her and the rest of his family. He's not perfect, as he can sometimes be a bit pushy, stubborn, and even a bit insensitive, like when he told Aaron that they would maybe have to eat manchi in order to survive, but his heart is always in the right place. For our silver medal of good, we're giving it to Aaron Mitchell. Being a far cry from the typical bratty little brother that you'd normally see in movies about dysfunctional families, Aaron is a cheerful, painfully honest, and eager kid who loves dinosaurs. Much like his mother, Aaron can be incredibly empathetic and is often the one trying to help Rick and Katie rebuild their father-daughter connection, working right alongside Linda in her efforts to make the family bonds between them just a bit stronger. Additionally, while he is the youngest and can easily get freaked out by all the danger he and his family have to face in the brief robot uprising, Aaron still manages to be incredibly brave when facing off against the robots, all for the sake of helping out his sister make it through the action-packed climax. Though he is a bit awkward and probably the weirdest in the family, this doesn't take away from just how wholesome and sweet this kid is, to the point where him calling up strangers and asking if they'd like to talk about dinosaurs is seen more as a cute quirk than as an annoyance. Moving on to our bronze medal of good is going to be Linda Mitchell. Being the most empathetic member of the Mitchell family, Linda is the one trying to keep everyone together and encourage good communication whenever misunderstandings or fights happen between the rest of her family. She's incredibly kind, caring, and endlessly supportive. She's even willing to give Deborah Bot and Eric a chance and help them out when they're in danger, not caring that they were former enemies.
Thank you, human. Are you now my mother?
However, sometimes this aspect of her personality has its flaws. Because she wants to have the same happy and perfect family as her neighbors, she can sometimes come off as the type who'd rather sweep things under the rug instead of dwelling on them. Though, thankfully, this is only a vibe that occasionally pops up with her, as most of the time she does try to genuinely help her husband and daughter work out their communication issues. Additionally, depending on how much you sympathize with robots, you may be somewhat turned off by just how violent Linda becomes towards them in the film's climax, though you still have to admire a woman who's willing to fight for her family. Finishing up the main Mitchell family, we're ranking Katie Mitchell next. A filmmaker at heart, Katie is eager, easily excitable, and determined to make it to her dream school, even if it means having to save save the world from evil robots first. Throughout the entire film, she's often the one pushing her family forward, feeling that it's better to fight than to hide and risk getting captured. Unfortunately, one of the things Katie is willing to do in order to push her dad into the fight is lying to his face, telling him that she has confidence in his abilities when she really doesn't.
Oh, I was just telling him what he wants to hear.
Now, Katie wasn't being malicious when she did this, she was just wanting to help encourage him, and she still feels incredibly guilty when she sees just how much this lie hurt her father. Additionally, for as much as she may argue with her father, she still loves him and tries to make things right, especially once she understands his perspective a bit more. Outside of the occasional conflicts with her dad, Katie is brave, fun-loving, and a great big sister to Aaron. So, while she may technically be the least good of her family, she still has a ton of admirable traits that easily earn her a high ranking. But of course, you can't forget about the family pet, and Monchi is definitely what we'd consider to be a good dog. He may not be very bright, but the family loves him anyway, with Katie often using him as the star in many of her home movies. Because he's fairly brainless and happy-go-lucky, however, Monchi doesn't really do a whole lot other than sit there and look cute. He does passively help, since his appearance confuses the other robots, who can't tell if he's a dog, pig, or a loaf of bread. Sometimes he's a hassle to take care of, as it's usually the other family members who have to rescue him whenever he gets captured.
Don't go over! Why aren't you normal?
But Monchi still gives plenty of love and affection to his family, and he does get one actively heroic moment at the very end of the film when he manages to bounce Pal off his face and into a nearby glass of water. A very good boy victory indeed. Following him, we'd like to briefly mention Katie's girlfriend, Jade. One of Katie's roommates from film school, she's one of the people we see Katie texting and video chatting with before arriving at school. With how much they have in common, Jade is, as Katie says, one of the few people that have helped her feel seen, and the two are immediately able to form a connection and interest in each other before even meeting in real life. By the film's epilogue, Jade and Katie are actually dating, further implying just how strong their connection with each other is.
Are you and Jade official, and will you be bringing her home with you for Thanksgiving?
While there isn't a lot to say about Jade herself, given how little screen time she has, the positive impact she has on Katie, being a close friend and later a girlfriend who she's able to truly connect with, can't be understated. Finishing up the good, we have the youngest member of the seemingly perfect Posey family, Abby Posey. Being the member of the Posey family who we get to see the most, we learn that she is an incredibly sweet and friendly girl who, much to Aaron's delight, loves dinosaurs and dinosaur facts just as much as he does. Never coming off as a know-it-all, Abby is shown to always be interested in spending time with Aaron, never looking down on him or teasing him for his quirks or moments of awkwardness and embarrassment.
I'm just kidding, I hate you, you never heard any of this, goodbye forever!
It's really cute to see, and her relationship with Aaron really does add a lot to this otherwise admittedly minor character. Moving on, it's now time to talk about the characters that lie somewhere in between good and evil. Welcome to the gray area. First up are Abby's parents, Haley and Jim Posey. Combined with their daughter, they're presented as a perfect family, meant as a parallel to the quirky and dysfunctional Mitchells. From what we're shown, they're the type of family who always get along, are extremely photogenic, and who work together perfectly, as seen when they're able to make it to their car during the first scene of the robot uprising. Although they may be perfect, it's implied that there is a bit of shallowness to it. Additionally, in spite of their expert coordination, they still end up getting captured by Pal's army. Once they're free, Haley admits to Linda that she's actually a bit jealous of how well the Mitchells managed to work together and save the world, and in admiration of their efforts, promises to finally follow Linda on social media.
Wait, you know,
follow me already?
Welcome, Linda.
Like we said, they come off as just a bit shallow and fakey, though we can't exactly say that they're bad people either. They're just a family who should maybe spend a bit less time taking photos of themselves for Instagram. Next, we have the two malfunctioning robots that accompany the Mitchells on their adventure, Deborah Bot 5000 and Eric. Originally part of Pal's army, these two are a pair of malfunctioning robots who end up becoming part of the family. While you could argue whether or not their actions rely simply on programming and malfunctions or on actual morality, you can't deny just how much they end up helping the Mitchell family. Even in spite of how dumb and goofy they tend to be, they're still able to provide the Mitchells with additional information or firepower when they need it. Although they briefly become evil again in the film's third act once Pal regains control over them, the two robots are inspired by Rick's ability to change his programming and decide to do the same in order to help the family that they've grown so attached to. Wrapping up our gray area is the founder of PAL Labs, Dr. Mark Bowman. Being the billionaire genius who designed both PAL and the robots she uses to try and take over the world, some may see Bowman as just as much of a villain as his creations. We, however, would argue that Bowman was more careless and naive than outright malicious. While he made some pretty obvious and questionable mistakes, like disregarding the emotions of AI and not caring much about things like online privacy, it's pretty obvious that he still wanted to help humanity and was never trying to do anything bad with his creations. He also tries to convince Pal that humans are worth saving, although this doesn't work out. Funnily enough, he's also the one to show Rick just how much of a positive impact things like Katie's films are able to have on people. Unfortunately, the fact that Bowman never tries to actively do anything to rectify his mistakes, like join the final fight with the Mitchells, means that we really can't put him any higher. He's not a true villain, but he certainly ain't a hero either. We've finally arrived at the most wicked characters of them all. These are the bad two evil. Getting our silver medal of evil are the Furbies. Probably one of the funniest secondary villains in an animated movie, the Furbies are your standard creepy kid's toy turned up to 11. Speaking dialogue that makes them sound like evil cultists, the Furbies not only try to capture and kill the Mitchell family, but they also seem to revel in doing so, making it seem like they're acting on their true instincts and not just Pal's influence. While there isn't a whole lot to say about these guys, they managed to make for the most memorable and one of the most intimidating threats in the whole movie. Finally, our gold medal of evil is unsurprisingly going to Pal. Although you could argue that Pal is a fairly sympathetic villain at the start, being thrown away by her creator and only friend without a second thought, she quickly loses all that sympathy by the end of the film. Being someone who would rather write off humanity than try to work with them, Pal is more than willing to capture and kill anyone she needs to in order to take over the world. Had it not been for the Mitchells, she would have sent the entire human race out into space to either starve or suffocate, all because she felt that she and her fellow phones and AIs were unfairly treated. What makes it worse is just how hypocritical she is. For as much as she may critique humans for how we may sometimes use technology in order to avoid human connections, when both Dr. Bowman and Katie try to convince her otherwise by using examples of how humans do truly care for each other, Pal just outright ignores them. She has no regard for human life, going so far as to drop Katie off a building when she tries to get in her way. And Pal is even shown to be manipulative, both in how she forces a reprogramming on Deborah Bot and Eric, and on how she uses footage she took from the gas station she saw the Mitchells at to try and drive a wedge between Rick and Katie. All in all, while you may still feel a bit bad for her, there really is no denying just how evil and literally heartless this AI truly is. But let us know in the comment section if you agree with our ranking, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.